Hey, hello, and welcome to Ethical Entrepreneurship 101 with Ash and Margaret.
So, we live in the internet age now, and pretty much anybody can start their own online business. It makes it super easy for people to become entrepreneurs. But the problem that we're seeing that's coming out of all of this is that pretty much anybody can present the facade of being an expert online. And that's creating a lot of issues in a number of industries, but especially in coaching and in business coaching in particular, where we have a lot of people who don't have the knowledge or experience of what it actually takes to build a business, but they are jumping right out there on the internet and calling themselves entrepreneurs. Um, and it's causing a lot of issues. So, we're starting to see this pushback in the industry. And another thing that we want to keep in mind as we're thinking about this course is that, and a lot of people are not aware of this, but a lot of the traditional business and marketing standards and practices and things that we think of as completely normal, in general, but also particularly in the coaching industry, are foundationally unethical. Sales, PR, marketing are all founded on applied psychology. And in particular, they were honed and crafted and popularized by a man who used them as psychological warfare tools before he applied it to business. So, a lot of people are using these things to intentionally manipulate your insecurities, exploit your trauma, all for the purpose of getting higher profits and more sales. Because of this, and because of the way that it's being used online, we're seeing a lot of more socially conscious businesses and business people trying to disrupt all of this hustle culture, rampant consumerism, and this pressure to conform to this fake it till you make it mindset by trying to make their businesses a little more trauma informed and become more mindful of how they're doing business. Slow and sustainable business has been a popular thing that is gaining momentum over the last few years. And we're going to keep seeing this happen, I think, as more and more people are burnt out by the cycle of this overnight success race to entrepreneurship. We're also seeing consumers turning toward businesses that use a trauma-informed and more ethical business model and marketing strategies, because they are tired of being burned by people who are taking advantage of them and feeling re-traumatized by the things that are being used to get them to make purchases. And then additionally, the government is actually starting to pay a little more attention to this stuff. The FTC is cracking down on coaching scams and get rich quick schemes. We're seeing state level lawsuits being brought against influencers like Brittany Dawn in Texas, and a number of sort of like Ponzi scheme style online businesses that are being taken to court. So as we are becoming entrepreneurs and launching these businesses online, we have to be really mindful about what our legal responsibilities are, in addition to everything else, and in general harm reduction, and making our business a more a safer place for clients to be.
Yeah, and one thing that I want to add in that is that socially conscious business is not necessarily something new, but the trends are kind of shifting, not out of socially conscious biz, but evolving. Because I used to work in corporate social responsibility, and the the one thing about this course that is really different, I think, from what you might see out there around these topics of ethical business practices and corporate social responsibility, is that it really is speaking to this trend that we're seeing where both businesses and consumers are trying to understand and educate themselves about the wider social issues that we're seeing today, such as systemic racism, such as wealth inequality, environmental degradation, economic collapse, right? So these are big social issues that we're seeing, and there's a trend now for businesses and consumers to want to understand and educate themselves and respond, right, to these social issues. So it's not enough to just do business in an ethical way. You also have to go beyond that and try to actually mitigate these problems, right? So it's not just about learning ethics and ethical marketing. It's how do we apply this information to now actually resolve these problems that we're seeing. And there's a desire on both the businesses and the consumers to do that. And I think what you'll find in this course is a lot of information around not just ethics, but also how to actually respond to problems. And this course is for anyone who is considering starting a business but wants to build it ethically, anyone who already has an established business and wants to feel better about how they're doing their business. So whether you're a beginning entrepreneur or a seasoned entrepreneur, I think you'll find the information in this course valuable. If you're a coach, you especially will want to learn how to build and sustain an ethical practice, especially if you are in the online industry, since it's so unregulated. It's for marketers and freelance professionals who want to make their services more ethical. And it's also for consumers who, like I said, they want to learn and educate themselves about how to identify ethical red flags in businesses and the coaches that they are considering buying from.
Yeah, I think there's something in here for everybody for the most part.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
it doesn't really matter what kind of business you have. You can definitely take something away from this course for sure. And there's so much that we're going to learn. I'm really excited about it. Some of the outcomes that we think you'll leave this course with will be an understanding of the ethical responsibilities that you have as a coach or as a business owner, specifically as it applies to things like diversity, inclusion, decolonization, anti-racism, trauma, economic inequality, all of the really big things, societal things that impact your clients specifically. You're going to have a basic understanding of ethical leadership skills and what you need to develop in order to run an ethical business and how to apply them in your business. We're also going to teach you, we're going to have a whole module on trauma-informed care. There's a lot of misunderstandings about what trauma-informed care means, a lot of confusion. So we're going to really dive into what exactly trauma-informed care is, why it's important, what it means for you and your business. You're going to learn why traditional business is sort of foundationally harmful and how ethical business is very different from how we would do business as usual. You're also going to learn predatory marketing, about what that is, how to identify it, and what the business tactics are that could be considered predatory and why they're harmful. You're going to learn what your legal responsibilities are as a business owner so that you can both protect yourself and make sure that you're not doing anything illegal as part of your business. And we're also going to teach you how to build a brand without building a cult, which is a really weird thing to be putting into a course, but it's happening. And it's really becoming a thing. So we're going to educate you a little bit about that.
And of course, beyond just education, we're also going to be teaching pretty practical ways of actually applying this knowledge into your business that you can start doing right away. So you will learn how to create a safer, more welcoming and inclusive environment to support your clients better. You'll learn how to minimize the harmful impacts in your business model and approach your business in a way that benefits yourself and also your business relationships. You will learn how to develop more ethical leadership skills and apply them to the way that you do business. And identify, evaluate, and remove common harmful, unethical, or illegal business practices. You will learn how to shift your business from a sales-driven model to a purpose-driven model by changing your goals and your mindset in impactful ways that minimize harm. And then you also learn how to implement different ethical tools and measurements for business success.
So I guess we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves in case there's anybody here that's new.
Yes.
Hopefully this course sticks around for a long time and people start to find it or are recommended to it who don't just follow us on social media. But in case you don't, my name is Ash Riley, and you can find me on Instagram currently at Ash Rising, and also my website, which is inmysacredspace.com. That may change in the future as I think about rebranding, but for the moment, that's where you can find me.
And my name is Margaret Daftian. You can find me on social media at Seek with Sarah. I just rebranded it. And you can follow me on Instagram or go to my website, seekwithsarah.com.
So one of the things that we talk about in this course is business people having actual experience and credentials. So I think it's really important for us to talk about ours. To give you a little bit about my background, I have a bachelor's degree in journalism with an emphasis in strategic communications, which in layman speak is advertising. The way that my journalism school was structured, we had news editorial, magazine, public relations, broadcast journalism, and advertising were all together in the same school, and you got to choose your sequence. So I chose advertising. That means I took a lot of courses on PR, media buying, copywriting, graphic design, account management, pretty much anything that has to do with running an advertising agency. I've kind of been there and done that as part of my education and both as part of my career. I also did a ton of coursework in sociology because I found it to be really interesting, and now it's sort of like made its way back into my career as I talk about these things. I'm a former entrepreneur. I had my own business for 4 years as a marketing, business, branding, operations consultant for early stage tech startups. And I've been working in marketing, advertising business in some capacity for about 15 years, as well as, for 2 different ad agencies and for a global software company, an e-commerce startup. And currently I am a marketing director in higher education. I'm really, really passionate about trauma-informed marketing and advertising. I do a lot of advocacy on both my website and on social media about the importance of trauma-informed marketing and approaches to your business. And that's kind of what pulled it all together, was understanding the ways that these systems we live under perpetrate trauma and how that shows up in our businesses in ways that we don't even really think about because it's so normalized. And the reason why I became so passionate about that is because I myself have a lot of lived experience with trauma and abuse. Um, I have PTSD and CPTSD. And as I went through the journey of learning and understanding about those things, I began to see the patterns in how these things played out in business and in particular in coaching. So that's kind of what led me to this point and got me here to start talking to you guys about all this stuff.
I like your handle as or your descriptor as a BS, no, business bullshit
Bullshit
detector.
detector.
Yes. Ash is the business bullshit detector. All right, and a little bit about my background. So I have a pretty extensive educational background in psychology. I have a master's degrees in social sciences with an emphasis in psychology, where I learned a bunch of different theories and frameworks and models used in social science research and also application. I have a master's also in applied psychology with an emphasis in consumer behavior. So I was working as a applied behavioral and social scientist in multiple contexts, from corporate to nonprofit to academic and entrepreneurial settings. So I did academic work, I did consulting work, and basically this, in layman terms, is a way of applying these models and these systems that we learn in more academic settings to the real world. So how do we actually distill that information that we learn from textbooks to something different in the real world, whether that's building a more sustainable business or a brand with a socially conscious initiative. So I am very, very, very passionate about social change innovation, psychoeducation. So, giving people information and education that they can actually use in their lives in very practical ways, distilling really complex sort of academic jargon and information and research to just simple language that people can understand and use. And also, I'm very passionate about consumer rights. So how all of this sort of came together was when I was working at a PR agency, using my consumer behavior background to help sort of branding and messaging and things like that. And I realized how much, consumers actually did need to learn how their psychology works, right? And then moreover, how businesses and brands actually use their psychology, our psychology, right? Because we're all consumers here, against us, and how certain biases get exploited, right? So I sort of like took the information that I guess I was supposed to use to help businesses, and I was like, this is bullshit. This is actually contributing to harm. Why would I help businesses if I can actually educate consumers? So that was sort of a big switch for me, into going more into like social change innovation, which, as I said in the beginning model, it's not just about applying ethical practices to your business, it's also actually disrupting the status quo and flipping the entire industry that we know it today, more traditional like models, business models, flipping that on its head. And this is how we create change. This is how we create social change. So that's sort of my passion, my background. And like Ash, I also have a lived experience with trauma and abuse. I lived through a cult. I was indoctrinated into a cult for 2 years. So I have cult trauma. I've experienced firsthand experience with cult trauma. And so I also am very good at sort of detecting these cult-like tactics that a lot of businesses are using to manipulate and exploit consumers.
So this whole course has 4 main modules. We're going to give you a breakdown of what each module contains here in a minute, but the first module is going to be an intro to ethics and coaching. The second module is going to be about mitigating the potential for harm, and it will center all around trauma-informed care. Module 3 is going to be about building an ethical business, and then module 4 is going to be about building an ethical brand. So what you're going to learn in module 1 is going to really just be the outline of what ethics is for coaching. Why do you need it? We'll give you a model for ethical coaching, an outline of what ethical leadership skills look like. We'll talk about the need for diversity, inclusion, anti-racism, decolonization, and also teach you a little bit about how to identify some ethical red flags, including abuse, lack of qualifications, illegal practices, and predatory marketing. You want to go ahead and tell everybody about module 2?
Sure. In module 2, we're going to dive pretty deep into how to be more trauma informed in your business so that you can mitigate the potential for harm. We'll go into myths and understandings about what it means to be trauma informed, because it's a bit of a buzzword. So we're kind of going to deconstruct that, what it means to be trauma informed, and how trauma impacts coaching relationships, and also the effects of trauma and its impact on society, and some harm reduction practices that you can implement into your business.
One thing I do want to add to that is just so everybody's clear, module 2 is not going to make you a trauma-informed practitioner.
Yeah.
You're going to have to work with an actual trainer to learn those skills. But what module 2 will do is make you trauma aware. It will teach you the varying levels of trauma competency so you can kind of discern where you are already, and you're going to learn the importance of what trauma-informed care, the importance of being able to utilize it in your business, and also what exactly it is. So basically consider it like a giant informational intro to trauma-informed care that hopefully will make you excited to go out and pursue that training with a practitioner that solely focuses on that. Likewise, with the decolonization and anti-racism work, we're really giving you sort of an intro of what it is, what it's about, why it's important, and in the hopes that it will inspire you to go out and find somebody who specializes in those things and learn from them. All of this course is about, foundational information to lead you down a path of continuing education on all of these topics.
Mm-hmm. And we also provide resources for further learning too throughout the modules. And whenever we can't cover the breadth of a topic, we can at least point to you where you can find more information.
Yeah. So module 3, we're going to talk about building an ethical business. You're going to learn all about what makes business as we know it unethical. That includes oppression, systemic oppression, cultural and spiritual narcissism, wealth inequality, and how all of those things sort of bubble up in our businesses, especially in the wellness industry. We're going to talk about the social responsibility that you have as a business owner. We're going to talk about an ethical model of business that you can utilize in place of our traditional business models. We're also going to talk about ethical marketing practices and tactics, and the importance of accessible pricing.
And finally, in module 4, we're going to talk about building an ethical brand. So what is branding? Talk about ethical branding, ethical niching, how to have brand alignment, specifically with your values, and conscious branding and what that really means for spiritual brands, how to avoid starting a cult if you do have a spiritual brand. And we're going to talk about some conscious leadership skills and what it means to understand and know your scope of practice.
So I guess before we get started, there's a few things that we would like you to know and understand about this course. There is a lot of information in here. We're really proud of how much we packed into this. There's 10 hours worth of content. It is self-paced, so it's meant to be digested really slowly. Please take your time. Don't feel like you need to rush through this. The concepts are really meaty. It's stuff that you're going to need to take time to really think through, digest, implement. So have, some managed expectations about this. You're not going to come out of this course and be an ethical business tomorrow. This is going to be the starting point of deconstructing a lot of the things that you've been taught throughout the course of your lifetime, really. So consider this sort of like your awakening to ethical business. We recommend taking this course over 7 to 10 days to solidify the information, basically because the concepts sort of build on top of one another. And, if you take too much time away from between modules, you may kind of forget some of the things that we talked about, which are constantly connected back to in the following modules. Keep a notebook handy so you can jot down any questions that you want to ask us. And again, this is only a foundational course. It's a starting point for further learning and inquiry.
I think each one of these modules can be an entire, another 10-hour course probably of itself.
Yeah. We put a lot into this in a lot of detail because we wanted to give everyone a lot of value, but also because I think the 30,000-foot view is really important for this. And I think that's really what we're giving people is just like, what are all these different things that need to be implemented into your business? How do they relate to one another and why are they important? And then, we give you some tangible takeaways that you can start implementing right away after the course itself, but with the intention that you will continue doing that and continue furthering your education. So we do have a Facebook group that you can join. It's my Facebook group for people who have questions as you're going through the course. If you want to ask us something, and then feel free to start some group discussions too, because I learn from each other and understand how to do business better. So you can use this link to join the group, and again, you can tag me, you can tag Margaret. You'll find both of us there.
I think there's over 300 people in that group, right?
Yeah,
it's a great group. We have so many great discussions and you bring up a lot of awesome topics. I love that group. Okay, well, without further ado, let's dive right in.